Hello guys, Chris here, welcome back to another Sunday video. In this one, my friends, we're gonna be testing the GeForce GT 1032GB DDR4, which should have been called the GT 1020, by the way, in 2024. So the GT 1030 DDR4 right here has exactly the same specs as the GDDR5 version of the card, which I have been testing in the channel for years at this point. But the DDR4 came out in 2018, whereas the GDDR5 version is a year older. It came out in 2017. And what did Nvidia give us with the DDR4 1030? Well, slower memory at exactly the same price. What? Yes, my friends, the GT 1030 DDR4 has the same GP108 graphics processor, 384 CUDA cores, 24 TMUs, 16 ROPs. It consumes a bit less at 20 watts of power instead of the 30 watts of power of the GDDR5 version. But the main difference between the two is, you guessed it, obviously, the VRAM that they come with. The DDR4 inside of the GPU we're testing here today is much slower than the GDDR5 in the other GT 1030 variant, and that results in 3 times lower bandwidth with the DDR4 variant compared to the GDDR5. So if you guys are interested in buying a GT 1030, do make sure that you flip things around or just take a good look at the box, because if it is the DDR4 variant, you're losing a lot of performance. And it's not that the GDDR5 is a super fast GPU, you know. This is barely any good for gaming, and a lot of people say it's not even a gaming GPU. I think it's not, because the GT series card, GTX, is for gaming. Still, it could definitely do a lot of gaming back in 2017, especially when it came out. But this thing, well, I am not so sure. Let's play some popular titles on the 1030 DDR4. Shall we? Alright, let's start off with an easier game to run, Counter-Strike 2. It got like 69 FPS right there for a moment. Perfect. 720p resolution is what we're utilizing, and the lowest settings here. Okay, aside from FSR. Alright, and the game is just starting. Let's start counting our FPS as well, and as you can see, it's getting 70-ish frames per second, but this is quite underwhelming already, especially compared with the GT 1030 GDDR5. I tested that GPU a few months ago, and it got around 135 FPS average at 720p lowest settings, like we're using right here, with contrast boost enabled, or player contrast, whatever. Yeah, which is also a little bit more intensive. So yeah, guys, the DDR4 version is considerably slower than the GDDR5. It's kind of a totally different GPU. It reminds me of the GT700 series. Oh boy, I'm just getting wrecked here. God damn it. Also, I remember using an AWP and zooming into other players with the GT 1030 GDDR5 caused a lot of performance drops. So yeah, let's see if that happens here as well. Come on, there we go. Okay, yeah, it's not a problem. It seems to be pretty stable. Maybe they actually fixed that issue, which was happening with a lot of GPUs. Oh, wait a second. I definitely felt a slowdown right there, guys. Oh boy, come on. Oh, gotta reload. Yeah, it's 50-something FPS, but we're not zooming in or anything. It's just getting 50-something FPS in that scenario, which is terrible. Also, in maps like Anubis, for example, which have a lot of water, you'll also see a ton of FPS drops, so... I missed the AFK guy. There we go. We got the other one. Good stuff. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you, someone who killed that guy. Ah, damn it. It makes it hard to hit those flicks now with 60-ish FPS. You preferably want a high refresh rate experience in this one, obviously, and this just ain't getting that, whereas the GT 1030 GDDR5 definitely was capable of it, you know, with 135 FPS average. This is not half of the performance of that card, but it is close to half. Come on. Come over here. I want more kills. God, come on. There we go. Okay, I got one more. Wait, 60, 63. Oh, okay. Well, second place is great with a card like this. I'll take it. 69 FPS average. Guys, this is great. Alright, now we're playing casual, standing right here, it drops into the 40s, throwing a smoke out is where things will get interesting, guys. 30-something frames per second, throwing an AG grenade on top of the smoke, drop us into the 20s, although high 20s, so it's not the end of the world, but again, this is roughly half of the performance of the GT 1030 GDDR5. This shouldn't be called a GT 1030, right? Next up is Red Dead Redemption 2. And we're playing this one at 720p resolution using the lowest settings possible with DX12 because Vulkan was having a lot of issues in the frame time, a lot of stutters. And it's been a while since I have tested Red Dead Redemption 2 on a GT 1030 GDDR5, but I can tell you that it was much better than this. It was getting like 30 to 40 frames per second most of the time. This is, again, about half of the performance of that. Come on. It is absolutely terrible. It's not going to be playable like this. I'm feeling a little bit sad towards the people who bought this one thinking they were getting like a GDDR5 performance or something like that. Oh boy, were you scammed. Jesus, how is this like $5 less expensive than a GPU that's twice as fast as it? Anyway, let's stop it right there because this is unplayable. Let's try it with half resolution scale right here, which means that we will be playing the game at 360p resolution. And well, at 360p, we get closer to 30 frames per second, but it's still not achieving 30 frames per second. It could also be because it's raining at the moment. When I tried it on Vulkan, it was getting like 2 to 3 more FPS than what I'm seeing right now, and it wasn't raining. Also, take a look at that pattern. If I zoom into the hill right there, you can see little triangles everywhere. It's so distracting. And finally, we're in Strawberry Town, one of the most intensive towns in this game because it has a huge river coming through it, and it's very intensive because of water physics and so on, and it's dropping down into the low 20s at 360p. Well, I think that's about it. There's no point in us trying this out much further because it's completely terrible and unplayable. Why is the horse so far away from the camera now? Come on, game. Do you want the horse to be 3 pixels? Next is the very well optimized Forza Horizon 5 at 720p resolution using no upscalers and the very low settings, or the lowest settings in the game. And today we're using a car that's from the same era, around 2005, as what games you should be playing on this GPU. Now, thankfully, if you're into racing titles, you don't really need to go back that far to 2005, you know, that was just a joke. Forza Horizon 5 is running absolutely fine. I mean, given what this GPU is, right? It's a very, very slow 1030 that shouldn't even be called a 1030. This should have been like a GT 1020. It would have made a lot more sense, right? Okay, let's take a look at back there, the festival area, not bad. At least it's not stuttering too much. Well, at all, actually. Oh my god, we're so fast! 350 kilometers per hour. There we go. All good, I made it. Finally, we are here in the city area, dropping down into the mid-30s, low 30s at times, probably. Get out of the way. Thank you. Yeah, 32. It's not dropping from 30, though, so that's great to see. 30 FPS flat right there, and inside of the tunnel it will probably drop because it's usually more intensive. Yep, 28, 27 there. At the end of the tunnel, 24. So basically, avoid tunnels and you'll be all set. Next is a recent one, Horizon Forbidden West at the 800x600 resolution using the lowest settings. And actually, knowing what I know already about this GPU, I'm gonna use some dynamic resolution scaling, targeting 30 frames per second, and FSR on top of it. And here we have it, guys. Awesome experience, isn't it? 10 frames per second or 12 right now, 14, 15. Well, can we reach 20s looking at the sky? No. That is absolutely awful, and DRS is at work at the moment, trying to push the frames up to 30 frames per second and lowering the resolution scale like crazy. As you can see, it looks absolutely terrible, but it's not enough for us to achieve 30 FPS, guys. It's just not enough. You should not play this game with a GT 1030 DDR4. I mean, everybody knew that already, I think, but still. Wow, is this a bad experience? Holy crap. I'm still gonna try to lower it down a little. I know that you can lower shadow quality here by a little bit, but that's about it. So now it's the minimum settings possible, and I'm gonna disable this and set FSR to ultra performance. Okay, and I don't know what resolution this is, but it's about the same as what the RS was trying to do, right? It still gets 9 and 8 FPS. Oh my god, it's completely unplayable, this one, as expected. And now it's the good old GTA 5 at 1080p resolution, using these set to the middle of the sliders there, high textures, which don't really affect FPS as long as you have enough VRAM, and the normal settings, which are the lowest settings in the game. And, well, with these settings we get around 30 to 40 frames per second, at least in this area right here, which is extremely underwhelming. Once again. All right, let's go, move out and see Jack, my friends. Over here, we're getting 40-ish frames per second. Once again, at least it's not a stuttery experience because our CPU is more than enough to play this game. But something like an i5 4th generation will also get you exactly the same FPS in this particular title. Now, I'm a little bit scared that it will drop from 30 FPS in Jack's Hill because we're going to see some bushes there, and that's like the most intensive thing in GTA 5. Basically. Get out of the way, people! Oh boy, I'm flying. Also, guys, if you wanted to play at 60 frames per second, you can always drop the resolution to 720p and get like 50 to 60 most of the time. Right here, it's not dropping, thankfully, into the 20s. It's still keeping up there into the 30, like 30 plus all of the time right here, sometimes even 40s. Not bad. There's Jacqueline there. Come on! Come on, I want to see Jacqueline. Well, not really, I wanted to see Jack, but, well, Jacqueline is fine as well. Hello, Jacqueline, how's it going? Everything all right? She's just sleeping now, guys, yes? Moving on, this is all Bob's fault, so we will make it right, my friends. 30 FPS, by the way, yeah. It actually touched 30, but not dropping from 30. Goodbye, Bob! Oh, yes. Go to hell, my friend. Well, not friend, my nemesis. So that's it for GTA 5. It dips down into the low 30s, which is very underwhelming once again, but it is playable on the 1030 DDR4 at the very least. Well, next up is hopefully not Stutter Night, but it's getting quite a few stutters right here. Unfortunately, usually it's only in this loading area, so yeah, I think it's gonna be smooth. We're playing at 1080p resolution using performance mode and the far view distance and high textures. And well, looking at the map from above, it's getting around 40 frames per second, but hopefully down there it's gonna become better, because this is a little bit crappy, honestly. Once again, this is an absolutely huge difference compared to the GT 1030 GDDR5 that would be capable of achieving like 100 FPS, average probably. We're now getting good FPS inside of here, but it's just because we're inside of here. You know, when looking in other directions, it will drop, as you can see, into the 60s. And come on, hello? Why? How the... I have never seen such a big stutter in my life. I thought it had crashed there. Alright, I'm gonna restart the counting system and play again. Try to get this guy over here. Why does my weapon has no sound? What? Oh, there we go. Now it has sound. That's really interesting and weird. Oh, we're being shot at. Please stop. Oh, God. Okay, wait a second. We might be able to do this. If we die, I don't really care, because this is a bit of a bad experience. Still playable, of course, but yeah, it's not what I like. Oh my God. How is that so bad? I don't understand. This is terrible. Come on. Those huge stutters. What's causing them? Is it just the game or the 1030 just being absolute crap? I don't know. Now it's Alan Wake 2, which is struggling to load the menu here. 640 by 480 resolution using ultra performance FSR, which makes it 160p resolution and the lowest settings possible, of course. And, well... This is getting 6 frames per second. It's kind of expected because this game is so intensive, but it did have a patch that made it run a little bit better on the 10 series GPUs. Well, obviously, 1030 DDR4 just can't really handle this, and this is what we get. Interestingly, though, before that patch came out for the 10 series, This game used to run below 30 FPS at these same settings with a GTX 1080 Ti, which is like, what, 1,000 times faster than this? Of course, now the 1080 Ti can do 30 plus FPS at 1080p medium settings, but yeah, it's just an interesting little comparison there. Let's stop it. Let's move on. This is awful, obviously. Now this is Helldivers 2 like you've never seen it. It's at 640 by 480 using ultra performance render scale, so it is 160p once again, just like in Alan Wake 2, using the lowest settings, and look at that. Oh my god, it's getting 13, 14 frames per second inside of the spaceship. And it's so much worse than the GT 1030 GDDR5 was. Now, thankfully, in this particular game, once you drop down into a planet, it's usually a little bit less intensive, so that's what I'm gonna try to do. Down here, we can actually achieve 40-ish frames per second, my friends. That is absolutely insane compared to the spaceship. Obviously, I still don't recommend you to pick up this game with a 1030 DDR4 because nothing is happening at the moment. That's why it's getting 40 FPS. As soon as some enemies start coming in and we start shooting them and there are explosions on screen and so on, it's gonna drop by quite a bit probably. Oh, that's a big one. That's a big... Stop vomiting into me. Come on. Wait a second, let me heal myself. Jesus, that's an ugly fat boy over there. I'm gonna try to make it a little bit better here, set it to native resolution at 640 by 480, and it's down into the 30s and 20s. This is extremely low, guys. But now things are seeable at least. At least the game doesn't really have a horrible anti-aliasing that smoothens out everything, you know? It's still sharp and kind of pixelated still, but it's sharp at 640 by 480 at the very least. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of them here. There we go. Starting to drop a bit more. 24, 25 right there. Definitely not as playable at the moment. Yeah, it's rough, guys. Oh my gosh. It's still a little bit better than I was expecting after seeing the horrible performance in the spaceship. But it is still crap, guys. Apex Lendario is up next, my friends. We're playing this one at 720p using the lowest settings, of course, as usual. So Apex Legends isn't really the most intensive game these days, and it's in the 20s, guys. Now, granted, this is while dropping, so hopefully down there it's gonna get better, but... I again was expecting a little bit better. Alright, now the fact that we're getting around 50 FPS at this point doesn't really mean much, because when people start shooting at you and there are smokes going off and stuff like that, it will inevitably start dropping a little bit. Although with just a single smoke on screen it doesn't drop too much, only into the low 40s. Alright, that's reasonable. And you could actually go into the config files to change the resolution to like 800 by 600. Then you'd be able to get like 60 frames per second. I did that a lot with older GPUs than this one. That struggled a lot in Apex Legends. It will be playable, okay? It's just not a competitive experience, but who is expecting a competitive experience with a DDR4 1030, right? Just doesn't really make much sense. The fact that the games are playable is already a win. Now over here, let's jump, take a look at the map from above once again, but not so far high, you know, and yeah, still 50-ish. It's stable at the very least. But again, ultimates are a whole other story, my friends, and here we have ours. Let's throw it out, throw a few smokes at the same time as well. Well, only a smoke. Doesn't matter, let's go. And let's stand close to this one right here with the smoke as well. Dropping down to 29 FPS, so it will dip down from 30 here and there, unfortunately. But it's not going to be an absolutely unplayable experience, right? Alright, guys. So we're playing Cyberpunk 2077 now at 720p using quality FSR, the lowest settings possible. Alright, I manually set everything to the lowest, and it's getting freaking 15 frames per second. Oh my god. There's no way. Holy crap. Like, this is so much worse than pretty much everything that I've tried in this game recently. And I thought like Intel Xe graphics were bad in this title because they got like 30 FPS with these settings. Now the GT 1030 DDR4 gets 15 FPS, not even that sometimes, 14 sometimes. Oh my god, it's so bad. Honestly, I was expecting better here. I'm gonna do performance FSR this time, which makes the game render at 360p internally, and that's good enough to achieve like 5 more FPS. So 20s now. Amazing. Not even that again. Dropping to 17 FPS. This is not even an intensive area, guys. Holy crap, is this bad? I shouldn't be surprised, but it's so bad. I really thought it was gonna do a little bit better than this. This is 360p at this point, for frack's sake. I guess I'm gonna go down to ultra performance. See if we can get 30. Nope, not even then. 20 FPS in a very intensive area. But yeah, it's still 20 FPS. So Cyberbug, or Cyberbob, or Cyberpunk. Goodbye, Bob, by the way. Oh boy, Cyberpunk does not work properly here. Now it's Call of Duty Warzone 3, and we're playing this one at 800 by 600. You can't really see it properly, but that's the resolution, and I'm using 80% resolution scale, which is the minimum for 640 by 480 internal resolution. I'm also using Fidelity FX CAS as well as the lowest settings, and this is what we get. 30 FPS, well, it's not even 30 FPS. Why? Well, let's try to play like this, guys. 20-something. Yep, 25 to 30 most of the time. At least while dropping. Right here, it's getting 30s, 40. It touched 40 FPS for a second. There's a guy right there. You know what? I'm just gonna run this way. I don't want to face anyone just yet, because I don't want to die already, okay? I definitely will die once people see me. Now, the water is very intensive in this game, and as you can see, it does dip down into the 20s at times. If you start shooting at it, you know what? It's not as intensive as with other GPUs, probably because there's like 3 pixels to render at this point. Oh my god, yeah, back into the 20s now, guys. Absolutely awful experience in Warzone, unfortunately. The FOV doesn't really make up. It's at 115 at the moment, by the way, and it doesn't make up for the stretched resolution. It looks like complete crap at this point. It's super blurry at the distance, even with the Fidelity FX CAS enabled, and I didn't even shoot him once. Oh, of course, he went prone, so there's that. I just completely lost sight of him because he went prone. That's what happens if you play at 640 by 480, apparently. But well, at least in the Gulag, we're getting 40-ish frames per second, and I can actually do this, as you can see. With 40 plus FPS, it's alright, but with drops into the 20s, it's terrible. Yeah, look at this. In this area, a little bit of a different scenario here. 30s, sometimes it can be playable, but it is really rough, guys. At this point, you're doing bad things to your eyes. You might start needing glasses a little bit earlier than you're supposed to. And look at this. The textures take so long to load. I mean, they're not even doing anything. They're just... Oh my! Oh, what the hell? That's so weird. Is this supposed to be a road right here? Sometimes it goes all green, like there's grass there. Like over there. What is this? So, if you play with the 1030 DDR4, you break the game, essentially. Hogwarts Legacy gets 69 FPS here in the menu. That's absolutely amazing. But what's not amazing is inside of the game. We're playing at 720p using 240p resolution internally because of FSR2 Ultra Performance. And, well, this is low settings, of course. And I think to no one's surprise, this is absolutely awful of an experience. You can get 30 FPS sometimes, but remember that this is actually an intensive area for the CPU to handle usually. People in Hogsmeade and Hogwarts, the castle, you know, they usually are CPU bound. So that means that it's lighter on the GPU in these areas. So it will drop even more than this out in the woods, basically, where it becomes more GPU intensive. Still, it's not dropping as much as I thought it would, at least so far, but I think it will probably drop to like 16, 15 FPS at its lowest, 17 right there already. Oh boy. And that is, of course, absolutely unplayable in this one. 17 once again. So, okay, 17 is the lowest because that back there is one of the most intensive areas to run on the GPU that I've seen so far in all of my GPU tests. And, well, it drops to 17 FPS. So this is not playable. There's nothing you can do to make this playable. 17 FPS right here once again. It's absolutely terrible. Okay. Next up is Fallout 4, which is popular again because of the TV series. We're playing at 720p using the low preset here, and that's about it. I'm not gonna change any of the settings. And well, my friends, this game from 2015 is finally playable at low settings. Holy crap, guys. There's low settings in a 2015 game. This GPU wasn't even released back when the game came out, yet it can only do 40 FPS at 720p lowest. With a little bit of stuttering here and there. Look at that frame time graph. It's not consistent either. So, wow. Goodbye, Behemoth, or Bob, actually. It starts with a B, so it must be Bob, obviously. Let's go. Kill this one as well. Hello. Please die. I have a minigun. You are supposed to die when you see the minigun. You know what's scaring me a little bit? It's already dropping into the 30s sometimes, and this isn't even a very intensive area for the GPU to render in the game. Like city areas and stuff like that are more CPU bound in this title than they are GPU bound. Over here, we're seeing a bit more vegetation that's more GPU intensive, and it's dropping into the lower 30s more often, you know? Still playable though, and I think you can have a good time, or a decent time at least, with the GT 1030 DDR4 in Fallout 4, but it is still worse than I expected. I thought we'd get these FPS at like 1080p resolution, not 720. 720 is way too low. Now I'm in the big city of the game, as you can see, and come on, get out. We're getting around the same FPS, 40s, sometimes even touching like 50 FPS, but down into the 30s as well. So in these areas, it's going to be fine. Thankfully, you know. Let's kill those. Oh, those are just mannequins. Okay. And next up, also from Bethesda, we got Bobfield. This one is being played at 720p using 50% resolution scale. I'm going to disable dynamic resolution, so it is at 360p locked. Using the lowest settings, FSR3 is enabled with frame generation, but I'll disable FG for now. Oh my god, I was looking forward to killing Bob in Slowfield this time, or Bobfield, should I say, because it's terrible in every single way. No, but that is definitely not going to be possible, guys, because we're getting 5 FPS. At least it's very stable, you know, it doesn't even move from 5 FPS. With other GPUs, you usually see major drops in performance in some areas, especially this area right here. Look in this direction, but no, now it's super stable. 5 FPS stable all of the time. Let's enable frame generation because I can't really handle this. Maybe it's gonna get us up to double digits. Let's find out. And yes, indeed it does. We're doubling our frame rate right now. Even more than that. 11 FPS at the moment. And it touched 12. But I'm not really feeling the benefits of frame generation, really. I mean, it's a little bit better. I can walk around a little bit better. We might be able to find Bob. But look at that frame time graph, guys. That is the worst frame time graph that I've ever seen. It's just a square or a rectangle there. You know what, guys? Sometimes benchmarking isn't about getting good FPS and seeing that one GPU gets 50 FPS, the other gets 70 FPS, and 50 FPS is such a terrible experience. No, sometimes you gotta appreciate the single digits and the double digits as well. So, yeah, that's what we're doing here today in this channel, my friends. We're being stupid, basically. Wait a second, that looks like Bob. No, it's just, no, it's an old lady, okay? Bob isn't an old lady, at least not for now, I think. Okay, this one isn't Bob. It's gonna be a very difficult task, my friends. This is Bob! This is Bob! Goodbye, Bob! Bob! Come on! Come on! Where is he? Where did he go? Bob! God damn it! It's even worse when I start shooting. He's right there. I can't control this. The low FPS coupled with the input lag from frame generation is just absolutely insane. I'm sorry, guys. We'll need to revisit Starfield a little bit later. to kill Bob, because today we failed at it. Next is Rust at 720p resolution using potato settings with 100% resolution scale, 300 shader level, everything else is set to the minimum, and well, as I would say in Portuguese, que cagalhão de performance. Like, that's the first thing that I said when I launched the game, actually. Oh my god, this is terrible, guys. It actually drops into the low 30s at times, as you could see there. It touched 30 FPS. This isn't even an intensive area. This is just a couple of trees in the middle of nowhere. And look at that RAM utilization as well. It's super high. It's a little bit stuttery because, well, the VRAM isn't enough in this game. It's a disappointment. Once again, this is actually close to what I experienced with the GT 710 a few years ago. I think maybe 710 was set to like 0.5 resolution scale or something, but this is not far off, guys. Absolutely laughable performance, or cryable performance if you have one of these, guys. I'm so sorry if you do, guys. Like, Nvidia scammed you hard. Please don't buy the DDR4 1030. Like, no one should buy this. If you require a low-power GPU, the GDDR5 is still very low-powered. It will run in pretty much every office computer out there, and it will deliver an image, and it will actually be capable of running some 3D apps and games. This one, it's very rough. You might find this acceptable, though, if you are used to playing games on something slower than this, but again, GDDR5 is $5 more expensive and double the performance, if not better, in this particular title. Now, it's Spider-Man Remastered at 720p resolution using the very low settings, or lowest settings in the game, and, well, it's not enough for us to achieve 30 FPS. This is a bit expected, honestly, because I think even the GT 1030 struggled quite a bit in this game. They just don't have the required bandwidth to run it properly. Even the GTX 750 Ti struggled quite a lot, although it was much better than the 1030 because that has higher bandwidth than the 1030, although it's also like 20% faster or so. And when I say 1030, I'm speaking of the GDDR5 version. Okay, this should have been the 1020. Once again, around here, yeah, teens, very low teens actually. It's awful. Now, I'm gonna try it with GTI upscaling, which is the built-in upscaler of this game, and even on performance, I don't think it's gonna be enough for us to achieve 30 frames per second. Yep, that's the case. Still in the low 20s, dropping into the teens. There's nothing you can do to save this little card's performance in this particular title, unfortunately. So 1030 GDDR5 would be capable of playing this above 30 FPS average. Still not a good experience, but with the DDR4 one, it's an absolutely terrible experience. Next is Dota 2, another easy game to run, 1080p resolution using the lowest settings with 100% resolution scale. Let's start counting our FPS and hope that they start fighting each other. It's getting 100 FPS right here, which is pretty good, but I think it might actually drop from 60 once things start to heat up with a lot of effects and so on. A little bit of a stutter there, probably just loading something, not a problem. Well, you know what? With everything that happened so far and everything that we've seen, I was thinking that in Dota 2 it wouldn't be as good of an experience as it actually is. It can hold 60 plus FPS apparently, even when things are happening like this. 62, okay, a little bit of a team fight. Lots of effects right now on screen, still hasn't dipped into the 50s. Everything is fine. Yep, it's all right. Okay, so now it's starting to drop into the 50s. I told you it would probably drop, guys. I have played this game a ton. I know how it performs. So you can expect around 100 FPS if nothing is happening, and in the worst case scenario, like 50 FPS, which is not bad for what it is. But again, the 1030 GDDR5 can do this at like medium settings probably. Now it's the ultra intensive and ultra cinematic, at least going by the 24 FPS that we're getting here in the menu, The Last of Us Part 1. We're playing this one at 720p, but with a twist, because FSR3 is enabled on ultra performance. Frame generation is off at the moment, but I'll try it in just a little bit. But that means that we're playing at 240 240p resolution. And we're also using the very low settings, which are the lowest settings in the game, of course. I gotta mention that for a 240p image, this is looking absolutely amazing when nothing is happening, of course. When you start moving, everything becomes really pixelated, as 240p should be, but still, FSR 3 is doing a really good job at upscaling the parts of the image that are static and, yeah, not making them look at... Come, get out, Ellie, please! Not making them look like 240p at all, okay? And we're getting 20 FPS right there, but look at what happens when we come across a very intensive scenario, guys. Over here, 20s, and yep, it drops to 13 frames per second, 12. This is extremely rough of an experience. It's impressive that the card can actually run the game without crashing completely, right? But it is obviously a really bad experience. Now, let's enable frame generation here and see what happens. Insufficient RAM, or VRAM actually. Of course it is. I don't care. So we were seeing like 15 FPS right here. Now we're up to 20 something, but it's even worse at the moment in terms of like the input lag and the ghosting. The ghosting is one of the worst ghostings that I've seen, probably because of the 240p resolution, of course. Next is PUBG at 720p using the very low settings. Now, I wouldn't really include this one, but hey, here we are. I thought, like, it's a GT 1030, PUBG is easy to run, so why not, right? And it is indeed playable, but it's you gotta remember that... I hate this game so much. You gotta remember that the GDDR5 variant actually gets 60 FPS in the same map and scenarios, so it's another shame. Now, at the very least, it doesn't seem to drop from 30 frames per second, although it gets really close in some areas, like over here, 30s. Yeah, it's not great, but it is playable, and, well, the game is free, so if you really want to play PUBG on something like this, give it a shot, install it, see if it works for you. It definitely doesn't work for me, apparently. I've died like 5 times already. But, well, you could say that I suck at this game. It's not really the 1030's fault that I'm doing so badly. I can't. I give up. And my friends, it is conclusion time. As usual, I'll still have 3 more games running right here while we talk about the terrible experiences that we just had. So, if you're wondering if you should buy a GT 1030, do not buy the DDR4. Once again, it's very important that you choose the DDR5, or GDDR5 actually, but even then, the GDDR5 model is not really that great of a GPU. Yes, it's 2 times faster than this, but that doesn't make it a gaming card, and that certainly doesn't make it a good deal either, because on the used market, for the same price as one of these brand new, and when I say one of these, I say the same for the GT 1030 GDDR5 because they're both roughly the same price. You could find something like an RX 580, which is like 3 times faster than the GDDR5 model, or like 6 times faster than this. And it usually costs less. You can find a 580 for like 50 bucks. And again, guys, that's not really that great of a GPU in 2024 either. It can play many titles where this really can't, but... yeah, it's 2024, once again. You should be looking at stuff like the RTX 2060, maybe, on the lower end, you know, maybe GTX 1660 Super. I found mine for 80 bucks, and that's the same price as this one, brand new, and the 1660 Super is like 7 to 8 times faster than this. So yeah, this is a terrible product. It shouldn't have existed in the first place, because there was already a GDDR5 model that was way faster than this. Why did Nvidia do this? I don't know. And it should have been called a GT 1020, as I said in the intro. So that's been it for the GT 1030 DDR4 video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really didn't. I mean, I'm kidding. I really like playing games with these old and outdated and terrible GPUs, but it's just that this one was a bit too terrible because of the scummy pricing. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one very soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.